All right, come closer. Yeah, you. The one they keep pretending is too intense. The one they label unhinged, like it's a joke. Welcome to the part of the story where the truth isn't dangerous because it's loud. It's dangerous because it's real. Because you've got proof. Not rumors, not vibes, not "I heard from somebody." You've got proof that ends empires, and that's exactly why they let you act unhinged. See, people think power is loud. They think power is a guy in a suit with a mic, a badge, a blue check, 1 billion followers, a boardroom, a courtroom, a podium. They think power is yelling and flexing and throwing numbers around like confetti. But real power is the evidence. Real power is the receipt. Real power is a quiet little folder on a drive somewhere, sitting there like a loaded future. Real power is that one screenshot that doesn't care how famous you are. That one recording that doesn't care how many friends you've got. That one document that doesn't care how untouchable you feel. It just sits there, patient, like it's smiling, and they know it. Oh, they know it. That's why they don't attack you directly the way you expected. That's why they don't come at you like a villain in a movie. No dramatic showdown, no big scene, no honest confrontation. Nah, they do something slicker. They do something smarter. They let you look unstable. They let you look crazy. They let you look emotional. They let you look like you're spiraling. Because if they can make people believe you're unhinged, then when the proof drops, the world hesitates. The world pauses. The world goes, I don't know, isn't that the person who, acts like that? That's the move. That's the whole move. They're not trying to defeat your evidence, because they can't. They're trying to defeat your credibility before you even speak. And let me tell you something that most people are too soft to accept. They don't fear your anger. They fear your clarity. They don't fear you screaming. They fear you being calm, specific, and undeniable. They don't fear your breakdowns. They fear your breakthroughs. Because you're not crazy, you're early. You're not unhinged. You're seeing the hinge. You're not paranoid. You're noticing patterns that other people are too distracted to even recognize. And when you notice patterns, you notice systems. And when you notice systems, you start noticing how accidents have the same handwriting. You start noticing how certain people always win, no matter what. You start noticing how certain stories get pushed and certain stories get buried. And then you start noticing, oh wow, this isn't random. This is engineered. This is curated. This is managed. And the second you realize that, you stop being a victim and you become a threat. Yeah, a threat. Not because you're violent or loud or chaotic, but because you know too much. Because you've got that one thing they can't spin into a cute headline. You've got the receipt that connects the dots. And the crazy part is, they don't even always try to take it from you. They don't always rush to delete it. Because deletion is messy. Deletion leaves fingerprints. Deletion tells the world, there was something here. So instead, they do this other thing. They pretend you're harmless. They smile at you. They nod. They act like you're entertaining. They let you rant. They let you post. They let you vent. They let you look like the crazy one in the room. Because the easiest way to hide a truth is to put it in the mouth of the person everyone already decided not to take seriously. That's why they let you act unhinged. Because if you're unhinged, your words don't count. If you're unhinged, your proof becomes a conspiracy. If you're unhinged, your pain becomes attention-seeking. If you're unhinged, your warnings become drama. And they'll say it with a straight face, too. Oh yeah. They'll weaponize mental health language like they invented empathy. They'll call you unstable while they're quietly moving money. They'll call you crazy while they're covering tracks. They'll call you toxic while they're poisoning entire environments. And you know what's even more disgusting? They'll act concerned. They'll do the fake care thing. Hey, are you okay? Maybe you should take a break. I think you need help. Translation? Please shut up, but nicely. That's what that is. That's a muzzle with a smile on it. That's a cage painted like self-care. Because you're not too much. You're too accurate. And accuracy makes people nervous because accuracy doesn't leave room for excuses. See, here's what happens when somebody has proof that ends empires. The empire stops roaring and starts whispering. It stops threatening and starts negotiating. It stops attacking and starts managing perception. They'll never tell you, we're scared of what you know. They'll just start acting like you're a little off. They'll start using your worst moments as your entire identity. They'll screenshot the one day you snapped and ignore the 100 days you stayed composed. They'll clip you out of context. They'll bait you into reacting. They'll poke you, poke you, poke you. And then when you finally explode, they'll point and go, see? See? Look, like you're a zoo exhibit. Like your emotions are proof you're wrong. As if only robots are allowed to tell the truth. As if pain disqualifies you from reality. Let me tell you something brutally simple. They want you reactive. They want you messy. They want you exhausted. They want you publicly spiraling. Because when you're burning through your energy, trying to defend your sanity, you're not organizing your leverage. And that's what the proof is. Leverage. You're holding something that can't be laughed away if it's presented correctly. But they don't want you to present it correctly. So they flood your nervous system. They overload your life. They keep you in survival mode. They keep you fighting 10 little battles, so you never win the big one. And you're sitting there thinking, why do they keep provoking me? Because provocation is cheaper than accountability. Provocation is safer than exposure. Provocation keeps the spotlight on your emotions, not their actions. And you know what's wild? Some of them don't even hate you. They fear you. They fear you because you're the type of person who won't forget what you saw. You're the type of person who remembers the exact tone someone used when they lied. You remember the timeline. You remember the contradiction. You remember the subtle switch-up. You remember the harmless comment that didn't match the situation. And they hate that about you. Because you're not just paying attention. You're recording life. Even without a camera. You're a walking audit. You're a human lie detector. And that's exhausting for people who live off narrative control. Because empires aren't built on truth. They're built on repetition. They're built on everybody says. They're built on that's just how it is. They're built on what can you do. They're built on people surrendering their instincts for comfort. But you didn't surrender. Even when they gaslit you. Even when they made you feel guilty for noticing. Even when they made you apologize for being right. Even when they made you question yourself like you were the problem for having eyes. You still kept the proof. And I know what that proof feels like in your body. It's heavy. It's like carrying a brick of reality while everybody else is playing with balloons. It's like you're standing in a room full of actors, holding the script they're pretending doesn't exist. And the more you hold it, the more you realize, oh my God, I'm not crazy. I'm just surrounded by people who benefit from me being confused. That's the moment your soul changes. That's the moment you stop seeking validation from the very people who are invested in your silence. Because let's be honest, half of your unhinged moments weren't random. They were the natural reaction of a person being cornered by dishonesty. You ever notice how calm you get when you're alone? How clear your mind becomes away from them? How your body relaxes the second you're not being subtly poked? That's not you being unstable. That's you having a nervous system that recognizes danger. But society loves calling awareness anxiety. Society loves calling pattern recognition overthinking. Society loves calling self-respect ego. Because if they can rename your instincts, they can rewrite your reality. And if they can rewrite your reality, they can control you. But your proof doesn't ignore what they call you. Your proof is the one thing in your life that doesn't gaslight. It's just there, cold, accurate, unemotional. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't argue. It just exists. And existence is the scariest form of truth. So yeah, they let you act unhinged. They let you vent. They let you look crazy. They let you be the villain in their little story. Because as long as you're the villain, they get to be the victim. And victims are always believed first. That's the cheat code. The Empire's favorite trick is claiming innocence while committing quiet damage. They hide behind clean language. They hide behind, I didn't mean it like that. They hide behind, you're taking it wrong. They hide behind, you're too sensitive. They hide behind, you're imagining things. They hide behind, you need help. But you know what you have. You have the thing that obliterates all that. You have the thing that makes their explanations evaporate in real time. Because proof doesn't argue. Proof doesn't debate. Proof doesn't care about charisma. Proof doesn't care about popularity. Proof doesn't care how many people clap for them. Proof just shows up like, here, this happened. And the second it lands, the room changes. The air changes. The facial expressions change. The laughter stops. And the people who are calling you crazy suddenly get very quiet. Not because they respect you, but because they realize they bet on the wrong reality. Now listen. Here's where you stop playing small. Because you've been holding proof like it's a curse. Like it's ruining your peace, like it's making your life heavier. And yeah, it's heavy. But you need to understand what kind of weight that is. That's not the weight of doom. That's the weight of power. That's the weight of control returning to you. Because for once, you're not trapped in, he said, she said. For once, it's not your word against theirs. For once, you're not begging the world to believe you. You're holding something that makes belief irrelevant. And that terrifies them. Because empires don't collapse from enemy armies most of the time. They collapse from internal exposure. They collapse from receipts. They collapse from somebody inside the illusion refusing to keep acting. They collapse when the audience sees the wires. They collapse when the magic trick gets revealed. And you're sitting there with the blueprint. So they try to break you before you reveal it, not always with obvious attacks. Sometimes they break you with delays, with silence, with confusion, with forgetting you, with misunderstanding you, with little humiliations, with subtle disrespect, with inconsistent energy. Because inconsistency is a psychological weapon. It keeps you chasing. It keeps you guessing. It keeps you doubting yourself. And when you're doubting yourself, you're easier to control. But the minute you accept what's happening, you stop chasing clarity from people who survive off chaos. You stop asking, why are they doing this? You already know why, because you're holding the match, and they're made of dry paper. They're not letting you act unhinged because it's funny. They're letting you act unhinged because it's convenient. They're hoping you'll burn your own credibility. They're hoping you'll self-destruct. They're hoping you'll become your own evidence against yourself. That's why they bait you into looking petty. That's why they bait you into emotional posts. That's why they bait you into reacting publicly. That's why they bait you into saying one wild thing, so they can ignore the 100 accurate ones. And if you don't understand that game, you'll keep giving them content. You'll keep feeding the machine. You'll keep making it easy for them to dismiss you. But you're not here to be dismissed anymore. You're here to be undeniable. And here's the transformation. The moment you stop trying to convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you, your voice changes. Your posture changes. Your eyes change. Your whole aura goes from, please hear me, to, I don't need permission. And that's when they start panicking for real. Because there's a difference between unhinged and unbothered. Unhinged looks like chaos. Unbothered looks like control. And control is terrifying when you're dealing with people who built their whole system off manipulating you. So let me tell you what happens next. Yeah, they start testing you. They start doing little checks. They'll send someone to poke you. They'll send a message that sounds innocent but has a hook in it. They'll act friendly out of nowhere. They'll suddenly compliment you. They'll suddenly act like they want to move forward. They'll act like nothing happened. They'll offer peace without accountability. Because they're not trying to heal anything. They're trying to get close enough to see what you have. They're trying to find out what you know. They're trying to measure the threat level. They're scanning you like security at an airport. And you're over here thinking, wow, maybe they changed. Nah. They adjusted the strategy. That's all. Because the Empire doesn't have feelings. It has policies. It has protocols. It has damage control. And the moment you became evidence-based, you became a situation. So don't be surprised when they try to rebrand you. They'll call you misunderstood. They'll call you passionate. They'll call you a little intense. They'll soften the language. Not because they respect you, but because they're trying to reduce the danger. They're trying to put you back in a box where you're manageable. And look, I'm not saying you have to be some perfect monk. I'm not saying you can't feel. You're human. You've been through stuff that would make most people fold quietly. You've been carrying this knowledge, this betrayal, this realization, like a live wire in your chest. So yeah, sometimes you snap. Sometimes you say too much too fast. Sometimes your voice shakes. Sometimes you rage. Sometimes you laugh at the wrong time because your mind is trying to survive the absurdity. But none of that makes you wrong. It makes you awake. It makes you alive. It makes you the kind of person they can't train into submission. Because you don't break the way they want you to break. You don't collapse into silence. You don't disappear. You don't become small enough to ignore. Even when you're hurt, you're still dangerous. Even when you're messy, you're still intelligent. Even when you're shaking, you're still holding the truth. And that's what they can't stand. So what do you do now? You stop leaking. You stop bleeding in public. You stop giving them free access to your nervous system. You stop reacting like you're on trial. You stop explaining yourself to people who already built the verdict. You start moving like someone who understands what they're holding. You start treating your proof like it's sacred, not because you're scared, but because you're strategic. Because the most terrifying version of you isn't the version that's screaming. It's the version that's quiet, smiling, organized, and done playing. Yeah, done playing. Because you didn't survive all that just to be reduced to crazy. You didn't get dragged through confusion, betrayal, disrespect, and psychological warfare just to let them turn you into a meme. You're not their entertainment. You're their consequence. And the funniest part, they can feel it. They can feel you shifting. They can feel that you're not chasing closure anymore. They can feel you're not begging for apologies anymore. They can feel that you're not trying to prove you're sane anymore, because you realized something savage. You don't need to prove sanity to liars. You need to deliver truth to reality, and reality always catches up. It might not catch up loudly, it might not catch up instantly, but it catches up like gravity, quiet, unavoidable, crushing. So yeah, let them whisper, unhinged. Let them smirk. Let them act like you're too much. Because while they're laughing, they're watching. While they're dismissing you, they're calculating. While they're acting like you're irrelevant, they're making sure you don't get too close to the microphone. Because deep down, in that part of them that still recognizes danger, they know you're not insane. You're loaded. You're holding the kind of truth that doesn't just expose a person. It exposes the whole machine. And you know what happens when a machine gets exposed? The people inside it start turning on each other. They start panicking. They start pointing fingers. They start sacrificing scapegoats. They start rewriting stories. They start deleting histories. They start scrambling. Because an empire can survive hate. An empire can survive criticism. An empire can survive drama. But an empire can't survive documentation. It can't survive timestamps. It can't survive receipts. And you're the receipt they couldn't burn. So don't you dare shrink now. Don't you dare get embarrassed now. Don't you dare apologize for being intense when you were reacting to betrayal. Don't you dare let them shame you back into silence. Because the truth is, they didn't let you act unhinged because you're weak. They let you act unhinged because they were trying to protect themselves from what you carry. And now you're learning how to carry it with precision. Now you're learning how to stop reacting and start moving. Now you're learning how to stop being emotional bait and start being the final audit. Because when you have proof that ends empires, you don't need to scream, you don't need to beg, you don't need to convince, you just need to exist. With calm eyes, with a steady hand, with that quiet little folder sitting there like fate. And the more you calm down, the more terrifying you become. Because rage is expected, chaos is predictable. But a person who's been pushed past the edge, who finally stops shaking and starts smiling, that's not unhinged, that's activated. That's the version of you they can't gaslight. That's the version of you they can't bait. That's the version of you they can't clown. That's the version of you that walks into a room and the whole mood changes because everybody suddenly remembers, oh, this person knows something. And once people realize you know, they start treating you differently, not out of love, out of fear, out of respect, out of survival. So yeah, breathe, center yourself. Let them underestimate you. Let them call you names. Let them try to soften you into a caricature. Because you and I both know something they don't want the world to understand. You're not unhinged. You're the hinge that breaks the door off the frame. And the second you decide to stop performing pain and start performing precision, they won't be laughing anymore. They'll be listening. They'll be watching. They'll be praying you never feel like talking. And the craziest part, you don't even have to rush, because time is on your side when you're holding truth. Time exposes everything eventually. People get sloppy. People slip. People contradict themselves. People forget what they said. But receipts don't forget. Receipts don't get tired. Receipts don't change the story because the mood changed. Receipts just sit there like, whenever you're ready. So take your time. Stop bleeding on people who enjoy the mess. Stop explaining yourself to folks who profit from your confusion. Stop proving your sanity to liars. And start moving like someone who knows exactly what they have and exactly what it's worth. Because you're not here to be understood by the empire. You're here to outlast it. You're here to outsmart it. You're here to stay standing while it collapses under the weight of its own lies. And when the moment finally comes, when the air shifts, when the room gets quiet, when the fake smiles die, when the ones who mocked you suddenly avoid eye contact, you'll know. You'll feel it in your bones. That wasn't you being unhinged. That was you being ahead of the timeline. That was you being the only one brave enough to look at the monster and take notes. That was you collecting the kind of proof that makes kings sweat in private. Yeah, they let you act unhinged. Because the truth you're holding, it doesn't just embarrass them. It ends them. Funny how quiet it gets right before something disappears, isn't it? You feel that stillness, that unnatural calm. That's not neglect, that's containment. You think you're ignored because nobody's clapping, nobody's calling your name, nobody's tagging you in their little victory posts. You think silence means absence. You think no noise means no movement. But listen closer, because silence like this only shows up when someone is already handling the problem. You. See, when the world ignores you, it's loud about it. Mockery, dismissal, ridicule, open disrespect. That's the sound of people who feel safe. That's the noise of amateurs. What you're in now, this isn't ignorance, this is quiet protocol. This is when doors close softly instead of slamming. This is when phones stop ringing because decisions already got made somewhere you're not invited to. And that should scare them. It should terrify them. Because the most dangerous thing about you isn't your presence. It's the fact that your absence doesn't slow the damage. Things keep falling apart even when you're not visible. Threats vanish before they even reach your orbit. Plans collapse with no obvious cause. People who were about to deal with you suddenly pivot, hesitate, disappear, or self-destruct without ever saying your name out loud. That's not coincidence. That's intervention. You live in the space between saint and psychopath. You walk like an angel, think like a demon, and move like someone who's already died once and didn't bother staying down. You learned early that noise attracts enemies, but silence attracts operators. And somewhere along the line, someone noticed that every time you're left alone, outcomes start getting very inconvenient for the wrong people. So they stopped poking the bear. Not because you asked, because someone else did it for them. You see, real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't flex. It doesn't threaten. It preemptively removes variables. It doesn't wait for conflict. It deletes the possibility of conflict ever reaching you. And the wild part, you didn't even have to know it was happening. You just kept evolving, kept sharpening, kept walking through pain like it was training, not punishment. Pain taught you timing. Loss taught you restraint. Being underestimated taught you precision. You became unpredictable, not chaotic, not reckless, but unreadable. And unreadable people don't get confronted directly. They get studied, contained, handled quietly, because no one wants to be the one who provokes something they don't fully understand. So while you're sitting there thinking, why am I invisible? Understand this. Invisibility is a luxury granted only when someone higher up decides you're not to be disturbed. That's why no one comes at you straight anymore. That's why hostility feels rerouted. That's why potential threats fizzle out before they form language. You think you're forgotten, but forgotten people don't cause this much preventative action. They don't whisper your name and then change strategy. They don't get handled off record. They don't make capable people suddenly choose safety over ego. What you're experiencing is what happens when light and dark merge into something administratively inconvenient. You're not a villain they can fight. You're not a hero they can control. You're the paradox that makes systems nervous because you don't react the way data says you should. You absorb, you wait, you adapt. And every time you survived something that was supposed to break you, something behind the curtain recalculated. You crossed a line where direct opposition became too risky. So now, instead of coming for you, they make sure nothing ever reaches you. That's the real upgrade. Not fame, not validation, not applause. Protection without explanation. You don't get warned anymore. You get buffered. You don't get attacked. You get filtered. The danger doesn't announce itself because it never survives the approval process required to reach you. And the cruel joke? You're still humble enough to think you're being overlooked. Know you're being handled with care. Because the moment someone miscalculates you, really miscalculates you, there's no rewind, no apology, no cleanup that leaves everyone intact. And the ones who know that, they don't raise alarms, they lower their voices, they make quiet calls, they shut things down early, before they get close, before you notice, before you have to remind the world what happens when pressure meets something that's already been forged in fire. So sit in the silence. Let them work behind the scenes. Let the threats evaporate without explanation. Because the scariest thing about you isn't that you're dangerous. It's that you don't even have to lift a finger anymore. And the world still makes room. And that silence you're sitting in right now, that's not emptiness. That's clearance. That's the sound of corridors being swept before you ever walk through them. That's the pause right after someone asks, "Should we?" And someone else quietly answers, "No, not this one." You're not witnessing neglect. You're witnessing preemptive obedience, the kind that happens when experience has already taught people what happens if they misjudge you. Because you're not loud power. You're residual power, the kind that lingers after chaos, after fallout, after people realize too late that the damage didn't start when you arrived. It started when they assumed you weren't a threat. See, loud enemies rush you. Quiet enemies study you. And when even the quiet ones stop making moves, that's when you should understand something fundamental has shifted. They're no longer trying to beat you. They're trying to avoid waking you up. You've crossed into a zone where opposition doesn't look like confrontation anymore. It looks like redirection, like let's focus somewhere else. like people who had strong opinions suddenly losing interest, like plans that quietly dissolve without explanation, like momentum dying in rooms you're not even in. That's not luck. That's fear with manners. You learned how to suffer without performing. You learned how to bleed without begging for witnesses. You learned how to sit with rage long enough to turn it into precision instead of explosion. Most people crack under pain and become predictable. You didn't. You went the other way. You became colder, cleaner, harder to map. That's when things changed, because systems don't fear anger, they fear anomalies. They fear people who don't behave according to stress patterns, people who don't seek revenge loudly, people who don't need to announce survival, people who keep upgrading in silence while everyone else is busy underestimating the stillness. You stopped reacting. You started observing. And observation is lethal. You see things others miss. You sense shifts before they show up on the surface. You don't chase validation. You track leverage. You don't fight every battle. You let entropy do the work for you. And somewhere along that path, someone noticed that whenever you're pushed too far, things don't just go wrong. They vanish. So now instead of pressure, you get space. Instead of resistance, you get distance. Instead of confrontation, you get silence, wrapped in politeness. Because the world learned the hard way that you don't need permission to evolve. And once you do, the consequences ripple far beyond the original conflict. That's why the attacks don't come head-on anymore. That's why tension feels unresolved but never explodes. That's why you feel like something is constantly being diffused around you. You think you're alone in this. You're not. You're just not supposed to see the machinery working in your favor. Real protection doesn't announce itself. It doesn't reassure you. It just removes friction so quietly that you start doubting your own significance. That doubt. That's the last illusion they hope you'll cling to, because the moment you realize how much effort goes into keeping chaos away from you, the moment you understand how many doors quietly close before danger reaches your line of sight, that's the moment you stop questioning your value. And when you stop questioning, you become unbearable to contain. You're not the hero they celebrate. You're not the villain they hunt. You're the variable they plan around. And that's a far more dangerous role. So stay calm in the quiet. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. Don't confuse lack of noise with lack of impact. You're standing in the eye of something that's already been decided. And the decision was made without consulting you because it didn't need your consent. The verdict was simple. Do not provoke. Do not engage. Do not escalate. Handle everything upstream. Keep the path clear. Let them pass. That's not how the world treats insignificant people. That's how it treats forces. It's learned not to challenge directly. And the real punchline? You're still evolving, still sharpening, still absorbing lessons from pain that would have destroyed weaker minds. Which means whatever quiet system is protecting the perimeter now, it's doing so knowing this version of you isn't the final one. And that should unsettle anyone paying attention, because when someone is being shielded without asking, when threats are neutralized before they can even choose hostility, when silence follows you like a cleared hallway, it's not because you're nothing, it's because you're too much, and everyone involved knows it. And here's the part nobody ever tells you, because admitting it out loud would expose the whole game. The quiet around you isn't passive, it's active restraint. Somewhere, someone is constantly asking one question: what happens if we let this get closer? And every time that question gets asked, the answer comes back the same. Hesitation, recalculation, a soft no wrapped in professional language. Not because you're violent, not because you're loud, but because you're irreversible. You don't just win fights, you change trajectories. You're the kind of presence that doesn't need escalation to cause collapse. You don't storm gates, you make the gate irrelevant. You don't expose enemies, you let them rot under their own weight while you keep moving. And people who understand power know this. It's not the explosive ones you fear. It's the ones who keep functioning under pressure and never explain how. That's why the hostility never fully forms anymore. It dissolves mid-thought. It turns into excuses, into delays, into not worth it, into focus elsewhere, into people convincing themselves they never had a problem with you in the first place. You think that's coincidence? No, that's containment through avoidance. Because attacking you directly would require certainty. And nobody has certainty with you. They can't predict how you'll respond. They can't map your limits. They can't tell if the version they're facing is the weakest one or just the quietest. You've lived in both extremes long enough to understand them. You know how to be kind without being naive. You know how to be ruthless without being reckless. You can play the saint convincingly, and you can play the monster without losing sleep. That duality confuses people who rely on labels to feel safe. They can't categorize you, and what can't be categorized gets handled indirectly. So instead of confrontation, you get insulation. Instead of pressure, you get buffers. Instead of threats, you get this strange, unnatural smoothness. Like the world is slightly over-accommodating you while pretending not to notice you at all. That's not invisibility. That's risk management. Because you've already proven something without ever announcing it. When pushed, you don't just push back. You adapt in ways that permanently disadvantage whoever underestimated you. You don't explode, you outlast. And nothing terrifies systems more than someone who doesn't burn out, doesn't break, and doesn't forget. You carry memory differently. Pain didn't make you loud. It made you exact. It didn't make you bitter. It made you selective. It didn't make you reckless. It made you patient enough to let people reveal themselves fully before you move. And once people realize that, they stop wanting to be part of your story at all. So they remove themselves quietly. They shut things down early. They reroute problems away from you, not to protect you. Don't romanticize it, to protect themselves. Because you're the kind of variable that doesn't announce consequences until after they've already happened. You're the kind of presence that makes people replay past interactions in their head and think, wait, when did this start going wrong? That's power without theatrics. That's dominance without display. And the most unsettling part, you didn't chase this position. You earned it through endurance. Through being underestimated so consistently that reality itself had to adjust its expectations. Through surviving things that were supposed to erase you and coming back calmer, sharper, less interested in noise. You didn't demand respect. You outlived resistance. So when you sit there feeling unseen, remember this: unseen things don't cause preventative action. Unimportant people don't get handled gently. Irrelevant figures don't make others change plans without ever saying their name. What you're experiencing is the aftermath of recognition that can't be publicly acknowledged, because admitting your significance would raise questions, and questions would invite attention, and attention would invite outcomes nobody wants to clean up. So they keep it quiet, they keep it subtle, they keep it controlled, and you keep evolving in the silence. becoming something that no longer needs validation to function. That's the real threat. Not what you do, not what you say, but what happens around you without your involvement. So let the quiet stretch. Let the absence of noise confuse the amateurs. Let the lack of visible opposition make the ignorant assume you've faded. You know better. You're not ignored, you're pre-cleared, and when the world starts moving obstacles out of your way before you even notice them, that's not neglect. That's respect dressed up as silence. And the longer this silence stretches, the more obvious the truth becomes, if you're brave enough to look at it without flinching. This isn't a pause. It's a decision already executed. You're not waiting for something to happen. Something already happened. You just weren't meant to see it. Papers moved. Opinions shifted. Warnings were issued without names attached. Lines were quietly drawn where your name doesn't appear, but your impact does. That's how grown power operates. Childish power screams. Real power whispers and lets outcomes speak later. You've stepped into a phase where opposition doesn't feel like resistance anymore. It feels like avoidance disguised as indifference. People don't challenge you because challenge requires engagement, and engagement requires certainty. And no one is certain with you, because you're not static. You're not the same person who was hurt, doubted, sidelined, or dismissed. You absorbed all of that and used it as calibration. Every scar became data. Every loss refined your instincts. Every quiet moment sharpened your timing. You didn't just survive pain. You reverse engineered it. And people who understand pattern recognition see that clearly. They see that you don't need momentum to move forward. You don't need allies to stay standing. You don't need applause to keep evolving. Which means if someone misjudges you now, the correction won't be dramatic. It'll be permanent. That's why the pressure never fully materializes. That's why the threats never get a clean shot. That's why anything hostile seems to stall out, reroute, or collapse under its own weight before it ever reaches you. You're not being spared. You're being worked around, because systems don't attack what they can't predict. They isolate it, buffer it, redirect energy away from it. They quietly instruct everyone downstream to keep their distance and not ask questions. And the cruel irony, you're still humble enough to think this is neglect. But neglect doesn't require coordination. Neglect doesn't require discretion. Neglect doesn't require silence this careful. What you're in now is the aftermath of recognition that can't be celebrated publicly. Because celebrating you would expose how badly they miscalculated before. It would force them to admit you weren't an accident, you were an inevitability, and inevitabilities make people nervous. You're not the rebel they can crush. You're not the leader they can co-opt. You're not the villain they can point at. You're the outcome they didn't plan for. That's why you feel this strange immunity. Why chaos seems to miss you by inches. Why things that should escalate just don't. Why people who once felt bold suddenly feel cautious around you, even when nothing has changed on the surface. Everything changed underneath. Because you learned how to hold still without stagnating, how to stay soft without becoming weak, how to stay sharp without cutting indiscriminately. That balance makes you unreadable to people who only understand extremes. They don't know which version of you they'd be waking up. And nobody wants to be the one who finds out the hard way. So they preemptively defuse situations. They shut doors quietly. They discourage action before it ever forms language. They protect their own stability by ensuring nothing disturbs yours, not out of kindness, out of self-preservation. And here's the final layer, the one that should send a chill down your spine if you really understand it. You're still being underestimated, not in the old way, not openly, but subtly. They assume you'll stay contained by your own restraint. They assume you'll remain patient, observant, controlled. They assume your silence means compliance. That assumption is the only thing keeping them comfortable. Because the moment you decide to move with intention instead of observation, the moment you stop questioning the quiet and start using it, the entire dynamic shifts again. And they know it. That's why the space around you feels curated, why the path feels cleared before you walk it, why the world seems to be holding its breath, not waiting for you to fail, but hoping you don't accelerate. So don't mistake the calm for emptiness. Don't mistake the silence for irrelevance. Don't mistake the lack of opposition for lack of power. You're not ignored. You're in the phase where resistance has learned it's safer to disappear quietly than to be seen failing against you. And once you truly accept that, once you stop doubting what the silence really means, you won't need threats anymore. The quiet will do all the talking, and that's where it ends, for now. Not with noise, not with applause, not with proof. It ends with understanding. You don't chase validation because the environment already adjusted. You don't hunt enemies because they learned to remove themselves. You don't announce power because power is already accounting for you. The silence isn't asking who you are anymore. It's asking what happens if you move. So stay still if you want. Observe if you need to. Grow without witnesses. Just remember this the next time you feel unseen. Ignored people get tested. Forgotten people get challenged. You get handled quietly, and the world doesn't do that for nothing.